Hello, a very good evening to you. Welcome to ITV News and to Wednesday night's calendar.
Yes, hello. Thanks for joining us. Here are tonight's main stories. A row breaks out in a West Yorkshire village where traders say new parking charges are killing their businesses.
It's more expensive than Bradford Town Centre, it's more expensive than Ilkley, and we do only have 3 or 4 shops. There's already been talk of people leaving, some people are closing and changing to 5 days a week instead of 6 days a week, just because we're finding that it's not busy. He was jailed for life. Now, a man who murdered his ex-partner and her new boyfriend out of jealousy has appealed against his sentence.
Going off-grid, the community leading the way in living sustainably.
This is an example of how everybody could live with the climate crisis and with the national grid and going over to electricity and all the rest of it. We've got to look at how we are going to run our homes.
And find out what these elephants are up to in Doncaster. First tonight, one of our most cash-strapped councils, Bradford, has been accused of threatening the livelihoods of small independent shops in a local village by introducing £1 an hour car parking charges.
Yes, some traders in the village of Idle say takings have nosedived by a third in just a month since the council ended free parking in the local car park. And they say shoppers are choosing to go elsewhere where they can park for free.
Well, the local authority, which was given a multi-million-pound government bailout to stave off the threat of bankruptcy, says free parking costs it money and it had to make tough budget choices. John Hill reports.
It's a community which has worked hard to earn a reputation as a haven for small independent shops. Through COVID and the cost of living crisis, customers kept coming. But are they now staying away? This was the village car park in June, free to park and full. And this was it today, a snapshot of course, yet all but empty, 6 weeks after £1 an hour car parking charges were brought in by Bradford Council. Few cars and, says local shopkeeper Carissa, fewer customers.
Carissa, this is your new business, a greengrocer, so you can't compare the books now with, say, when the car park was free. But you've got another business, a gift shop, and takings are down there by what?
Around 32%, and this is our busiest time of year. It's coming up to Christmas. We normally are extremely busy, and it has taken a huge drop.
She's not alone. Wendy manages the card shop next door.
People are reluctant to pay that extra £1 or £2. If, like at Idle Greetings, if you're coming for a few birthday cards, Christmas cards, if you're paying that extra £1 or £2, they'll think twice about doing that. So yes, it has affected business.
More than 1,500 people put their name to a petition objecting to the parking charges, but to no avail.
There was loads of cars in the car park, and now we go for a walk every day and pass the top, and we look down and there's 1 or 2. And I was just saying, I wonder how much money the council have actually made.
Well, it's around lunchtime now, and the shopkeepers say that before the charges were introduced, on any ordinary day, around this time, it would have been pretty busy here in the car park. But as you can see, there are just, a handful of vehicles? One of them, in fact, is ours. Now, the council says introducing charges can help encourage a healthy turnover of vehicles and shoppers to support local businesses. It acknowledges, though, the concerns of the local traders, but it says it faces tough budget choices.
Local Lib Dem ward councillor Allen says he'll now urge the Labour-run council to have a rethink when it meets next month.
The car parking charges need to go, or at the very least have a period of free parking, so people who want to do short-term parking can do so without having to incur an extra charge.
Whatever happens, the message from shopkeepers like Carissa is please shop local and keep your local community alive. John Hill, ITV News, Idle in Bradford.
Next tonight, a man who was given a whole life sentence for murdering his ex-partner and her new boyfriend in Huddersfield has been back in court today to appeal against that prison term.
Back in March, Marcus Osborne was told he'd spend the rest of his life behind bars for the attack on Katie Higton and her partner Stephen Hartnett in May 2023.
Well, today he appeared in court as his legal team argued the sentence was too severe. Our reporter Ben Basin has been following this and joins us from our newsroom. Ben, just remind us what happened in the case.
Well, Ian, this was a really shocking case, and I should warn you first of all that some of the details are upsetting. Marcus Osborne brutally stabbed his ex-partner Katie Higton 99 times in May last year in an attack the judge said was out of sexual jealousy because she had started seeing someone else. After he'd killed Katie, Osborne used her phone to lure her new partner, Stephen Harnett, to the house, where he then killed him too, before mutilating both bodies. Well, he then raped another woman at knife point who was in the house at the time. In March at Leeds Crown Court, Osborne was handed a rare whole-life order, meaning he will never be released from prison.
So, Ben, what happened in court today?
Well, Ian, today Osborne appealed against the decision to give him a whole life sentence. He appeared at the Court of Appeal via video link from HMP Wakefield, wearing a grey jumper, and he only spoke to confirm his name. His legal team argued that the sentencing judge at the time, Mrs Justice Lambert, failed to give enough weight to the fact that he pleaded guilty to all of the charges that he faced. Well, now, normally that would mean a reduction in the starting point of a sentence, but not for a whole life order, although a judge is meant to take guilty pleas into account when deciding on one. It was also argued that the sexual conduct involved in the crimes was at the lower end of the spectrum because the primary motivation for the murders was jealousy and not sexual gratification. But the Lady Chief Justice of England and Wales, whose job it was to decide on the appeal, rejected those arguments. She said the judge was faithful to the sentencing guidelines she had to follow, and Osborne's actions were so horrific that a whole life sentence was appropriate. She therefore rejected the appeal, and the whole life order still stands.
Ben Basin reporting from our newsroom. Thank you.
On to other news, and detectives investigating the murder of a 23-year-old man in Leeds have made 2 further arrests. Emergency services were called to a flat on Winrose Avenue in Belle Isle on Tuesday, where a man had been stabbed. A 24-year-old man from Leeds and a 17-year-old man from Castleford were arrested on suspicion of murder overnight. 2 men arrested yesterday, aged 18 and 16, remain in custody.
And 2 men and 3 women from Bradford have been charged with conspiracy to import Class A drugs following a major seizure operation at a UK airport. Officers from the National Crime Agency made the arrests at Birmingham International Airport on Monday after suitcases containing 180 kilos of cocaine were found.
Next, the Prime Minister has told MPs today that he's proud that the government is restoring leadership on climate change. It follows Sir Keir Starmer's visit to the COP29 climate conference in Azerbaijan, where he pledged to cut emissions.
And if ever you need proof of climate change, the past 3 years have seen people in our region lose everything because of floods and fires. Our reporter Katie Oscroft has been to meet people in South Yorkshire who are now safely back in their homes, but are still haunted by what they went through.
We are very busy at the moment, but as soon as we have a fire engine available... Fire rescue, what's the address of the emergency?
In the most dramatic, destructive and unexpected way, Paul watched his home burn in extreme heat.
I was stood with a garden hose thinking I could stem the fire, but not a chance.
I can't believe how much it came up.
Extreme weather affected near neighbours Paul and Dorothy in a different way. Their homes flooded, they lost almost everything.
It was the speed and the lack of warning that was the problem.
Been a lot of stress through the last 12 months. It's something that you don't want to have to relive.
But relive it they do, every time it's hot, every time it rains.
It was almost a perfect storm.
The land just behind Paul's home in Kiverton Park caught fire as temperatures soared in July 2022. The flames spread to his home and destroyed it. As the weeks went by, what had happened began to sink in.
I'm not interested in material things. Things can be replaced. But, you know, it's, you know, bringing the kids' stuff home from hospital when the babies, you know, they've only ever lived here, and Paul lost his parents, I'd lost my mum. It's, you know, the memory things that's upsetting.
It's always a concern that potentially it could happen again, but you try and think practically. You know, we lived here 15 years beforehand with no incidents, and hopefully it won't happen again, but very little has been done to prevent it from happening again.
Just over a year later and only a few miles away, Pete's bungalow all but disappeared underwater during Storm Babette.
It's like grieving, isn't it? You just can't place it, and it's when you reach out for something. Oh, it's gone down river, you know, and the things you've always got. I mean, 30 years, it's a long time to get used to something. Every time it rains, that's what we're going to do. You see people walking up to the wall and peering over the wall to look at the level. And there doesn't seem any way of stopping it at the moment.
It goes up to there.
Dorothy spent months with relatives in hotels and in a caravan.
I woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning and looked out of the window, and there's a boat outside, a rescue boat. Water's coming up, lapping up against the door. Someone knocked on the door, you need to evacuate.
This is the future. In many ways it's even worse than that. It's the now.
Dorothy's home flooded in the 3 years since Professor Dan Parsons gave this warning at the Climate Change Conference in Glasgow.
So periods of wet are wet and periods of dry are dry. So these extremes will become more frequent.
He warned then that this would happen.
It's like stacking a deck of cards when you're playing poker. If you stack the deck, you're more likely to win or lose depending on where you're sat. And what we're doing here in terms of climate change is we're stacking the deck against us the whole time. So these events are more likely to happen and are more likely to be more extreme, and that's why we're so worried.
The photos are still intact?
Here, Paul and Lindsay's wedding album was all that survived the flames, which were, say experts, a snapshot of what climate change is causing.
When you're growing up, you don't think of those sort of things, but you realise that your own children are very aware of it.
I worry about my children and my grandchildren, and I wonder what future they've got. It's down to our generation and the people in power.
Yes, Katie Oscroft reporting there with some upsetting memories for people. And coming up a little bit later on calendar tonight, Kerry has been to see one community who've come up with their own ways to tackle climate change and go off-grid.
And with cold weather on the way, just how cold it's going to get? Join me shortly for the full details of your forecast.
First, though, the England women's football team has been on a disappointing run of form recently since the heady days of being crowned Euro champions in 2022 and making the World Cup final last year.
But while the Lionesses might be struggling a bit, the women's grassroots game in this country appears to be flourishing. The FA says the number of women and girls playing football has increased by more than half since 2020. Kevin Ashford reports.
It's training night at Wickersley Ladies Football Club in Rotherham, which has been growing in strength at all ages.
My daughter's just turning 6 at Christmas and she's just started football training. So, you know, she could have 15 years of playing games and matches before I'd even started. So it's wonderful to see the progression of the game.
I love how women's football's getting bigger. It never used to be that big when I was younger. So yeah, it's really nice to see. It's been good, like telling people at school, like I played football, they were like, "You're playing football?" Like, and I thought, well, you can do it like I can, like, why not?
We started in 2003 at Wickersley Youth with the very first girls team, and then this girls team started in 2007 as under-9s, and they're still going now. And over that time, I think we're currently doing 176 players.
To expand the women's game in this country, and over the last 4 years, the number of girls and women playing football has increased by more than half. More than 3/4 of schools now offer equal access to the sport for boys and girls. And in that time, the number of female referees has also more than doubled. Part of the FA's strategy is to make sure that youngsters are inspired by their football idols. This is an England under-23 squad training session watched by a local girls team. What's it like seeing players at this level?
It's great, it's really inspirational, I think, and it's just enjoyable to see. Because, I mean, just seeing how good they are at, 20, and yeah, it's really good.
So do you hope to see yourself one day?
Yeah, hopefully.
We're doing a lot more engagement at sessions like this, you know, open sessions with ourselves, the seniors and some of the pathway teams. You know, when I was growing up, I think I managed to see, you know, England seniors play once or twice. So the fact that the game is much more visible, accessible, I think is a huge part of our identity. I hope that we keep that.
The FA recently set out its goals for the women's game for the next 4 years too, with the aim of even more growth. There is still a long way to go to match the male version of the sport, especially financially. But the authorities say they are on target to get even more women and girls playing football. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Some sad news now, and the Bradford-born actor Timothy West has died at the age of 90. From Shakespeare plays to roles in Coronation Street and EastEnders, he was no stranger to comedy either. He was married to the Fawlty Towers actor Prunella Scales.
Yes, well, earlier this year, Timothy West was given a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Yorkshire Society. So a short time ago, I spoke to the Society's chairman, Sir Rodney Walker, and he paid this tribute.
It's a dreadful day, and for a man that's had such a distinguished and varied career, and in his later life spent so much time devoted to looking after his wife, it's very sad news indeed.
And of course, a great honour he received in fact, that an achievement award from the Yorkshire Society. Why did the Yorkshire Society feel like they wanted to honour him in that way?
Oddly enough, there was a couple of people who suggested Timothy. They knew that he was approaching the great age of 90, and of course he was still actively involved in making programmes with his wife, and we felt that as a Bradford-born man, perhaps we'd overlooked him, and it was time that we recognised his considerable achievements.
And what was it like to actually meet the man himself?
We were surprised that, having agreed to accept it, he made the journey at the age of 89 all the way up from the south of England to attend the function. And he was an absolute delight to he was everything that he appears to be on the screen. He was just a thoroughly nice, decent, easy man to get on with, who mixed with everyone who wanted to talk to him. And it's just a great shame that it's all come to an end.
Yes, indeed. A lovely tribute. Thanks ever so much, Sir Rodney, for joining us. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
And there'll be, there you are over there, and there'll be more tributes to Timothy West when the ITV Evening News continues shortly with Mary Nightingale.
Before that, though, as we saw a little earlier on in the programme, tackling climate change is key to securing the safety of where we live.
Yes, one community in our region thinks they have the answer, having built more than 30 years ago what remains one of the best examples of sustainable housing in the UK. We sent Kerry along to take a look.
Nestled deep in the North Nottinghamshire countryside is a row of terrace bungalows like no other. Known as Hockerton Housing Project, the 5 earth-sheltered dwellings make up a small eco-friendly community, each living as sustainably as possible without traditional heating and water systems. Long-term resident Deb Yates has invited me round to show how renewable energy is helping to minimise their energy use.
Come on in. Hey Deb. Hi. Thanks for having me. Wow, so much light. And it's so warm.
It is, I can show you what it is. Look.
What have we got there?
18.2.
And this is in effectively what's the porch?
Yes, come on in and let's see what it is in the house.
Her home's passive solar design.
Let's see what the temperature is in here then, Kerry.
Helps store heat emitted by sunlight.
And then you've got 21.4.
That is amazing.
It's a constant temperature by day or by night between 18 and 23. But you being in here, the heat will be absorbed into the concrete wall. And then it slowly releases, you see.
It's really good to have guests over.
Oh,
they
fantastic.
Just leave a little bit of heat behind.
Yes, exactly. And when we get tours of, you know, with 16 or 17 students in the winter, I'm like, come on in.
Yeah.
And heading those excursions is one of the leading experts in sustainable construction and climate change, lecturer John Grant.
So it's a very simple sort of design where each room is the whole depth of it, and each is only 6 metres long. So this is the sun space and is really the provider of the heat for the whole house. They use concrete, which is a bit contentious, but it has a really long lifetime, but it also has this characteristic of being able to absorb heat. And so you wrap it in that insulation so it doesn't get hot in the summer and doesn't get cold in the winter. It's a better way of living that is not expensive to deliver, because the simplicity of the design and the construction mean that it can be delivered at a comparable cost of new build. And I'm really concerned that our current government is fixated with building millions of houses, which is great, but I'm concerned that the the regulations, the performance of those houses is going to be very standard. And they're relying on building houses that are electric only. The electricity in the grid is produced by renewable energy. Then you could theoretically say houses are zero carbon. And that is true, but the people living in that house have to pay their bills.
Now we're walking up the roof of the house.
When you say roof of the house, it doesn't look like the roof of the house.
Well, no, it doesn't look like a roof of a house, but underneath here is our living space. This is our sewage treatment, which is treated by the reeds and the phragmites.
So you look across there and it's a lake, but this water is really important for you and your whole community.
Absolutely. We are totally autonomous for water, so we don't have any water coming from anywhere else but this site. So the drinking water is falls from the sky down the glass roof, and then it's caught in the gutter there. Yeah.
And you have a flushing toilet?
I have a totally normal flushing toilet, yes.
Those that reside here not only live off the land, but are passionate about leading the way in sustainability.
Deb, I think my job is on the line because you've got something called a sun hopper that's the future in electricity.
It's able to tell when there isn't enough sunshine from the solar panels, and it'll switch the immersion on, and vice versa, and it can read the weather. So it also knows, and it learns our behaviour. So my last energy bill was £52 for 3 months. So if you can build homes like this that don't require that amount of energy use, and you can reduce people's bills, that's huge.
So this has been working for you for a number of decades now, but do you think it's the future for everybody?
This is an example of how everybody could live. With the climate crisis and with the national grid and going over to electricity and all the rest of it, we've got to look at how we are going to run our homes.
Unless things change significantly, the world could be over 3 degrees warmer by the end of the century. There are going to be periods that are going to be very, very cold and very, very hot. But if we weren't to prepare for the change, which is in part what the Hockerton houses allow us to do, that's catastrophic. It's never too late. The day to act on this, of course, is tomorrow.
Absolutely fascinating, wasn't it? Now, finally tonight, a new trail celebrating kindness has opened in Doncaster. 12 elephants are bringing colour to the city during the start of the festive season.
You aren't about to see a dozen real-life elephants parading through Doncaster, though. That's a shame. These are of a slightly smaller variety. We sent Emma Hayward along to investigate.
Well, I've done a little bit of the trail this afternoon and it really is rather lovely. In all, there are 12 elephants, all of them unique. Beautiful sculptures like this one. Of course, this is Elmer, the very famous elephant, made famous by this family favourite. It certainly is one of mine. And this is all part of this new trail, which is starting today. Tell us more, Nick. You're the head of culture, aren't you, in the city?
That's right. Welcome to Doncaster, and we are delighted in the City Council to have been working in partnership with Anderson Press, the publisher of David McKee's book, and also Wild in Art, the organisation that creates these magnificent sculptures. As you say, there's a further 11 across the city centre, and we're welcoming residents and visitors alike to come to Doncaster and really enjoy seeing this public art.
Is this about bringing art right into the city centre?
Absolutely. It's doing a few things at the same time, in fact. So firstly, it's World Kindness Day, and the message of Elmer is about being kind to one another. In a world where there's so much uncertainty globally, I think the message starts at home and in our communities. We have 88 great communities across Doncaster. There's a huge amount of diversity, and I think amongst all the challenges we see, that message of kindness is so powerful and important. But at the same time, it's also showing that Doncaster is a place that's inviting world-class art as well. So to have a public trail like this where people can enjoy art in an accessible way, easy to enjoy, easy to see, that's wonderful.
And you had penguins last year, and presumably that was very popular, and elephants are an extremely popular animal, aren't they?
Yeah, so we had thousands of visitors to Doncaster last year to come and see our glorious penguins. We're expecting thousands again this year, and then we'll have a new trail with a new design for 2025 as well.
And adults and kids get so much out of it, don't they?
Absolutely, and we hear that from people. People, they just really embrace that walking trail. It became a day out in effect for some people because they brought their families into Doncaster. Children love it. It's great for parents to be able to just inspire children to engage with both reading and great art as well.
Thanks so much, Nick, and you can come and be part of this trail until the end of January.
Oh, thanks very much, Emma. Looks good.
Nothing says kindness like a colourful elephant, does it?
Does it not?
They're beautiful, aren't they? Don't you think? No?
I do. I think they're
Maybe
beautiful.
just me.
Yeah,
OK, let's get the weather. Here's Aisling Creevy.
Good visibility on the horizon. TIRI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello there and a very good evening to everybody at home. Well, this has been the radar and satellite for much of daylight hours today. Lots of sunshine around, but you can see there's a fair amount of cloud in the North Sea and that extends westwards into Scotland. This is a very weak weather front and that's going to continue to slide its way down south over the next few hours. So it has been increasingly cloudy. The cloud is going to continue to thicken. There may just be 1 or 2 spots of rain. It's not going to amount to very much, but it will make for a fairly cloudy night. Now, by tomorrow morning, that'll have cleared away, but a legacy of cloud left behind and temperatures around 6 to 8 degrees Celsius. So a frost-free start, but a chilly, cloudy start to Thursday. So there'll be plenty of cloud around first thing in the morning. That cloud's going to break up, lots of sunshine breaking through as we head into the afternoon. Temperature-wise, very similar to today. So despite the fact that it's a little cloudier tomorrow, it's mild. Temperatures around 12 degrees Celsius. But there is a very big change on the way. So let's just take a look at the bigger picture, have a look at the jet stream and also the air mass as well. Now, the jet stream at the moment is well to the north of the UK. Through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, that sinks its way down south. As it does so, it pushes all of the mild air that's with us away and introduces much colder air from the north. So you are really going to notice that as we head into next week. It's going to feel very different. So dry but fairly cloudy through Friday, a few showers possible on Saturday, some heavy showers on Sunday, but that's where you will notice just how much colder it is. Temperatures around 8 degrees Celsius and then slowly but surely temperatures start to drop away, and by Tuesday, fairly chilly with highs of just 5 degrees Celsius and the return of an overnight frost.
TIRI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Thanks, Aisling. Oh, an overnight frost. Winter draws on.
I know. Great weather for elephants, though, don't you think?
I guess it must be. Certainly those painted ones. That's it from us. Arif's back at 10:30. Bye-bye for now.
Very good night. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.